Nice to
Nice to meet you as well. I've heard your chipper voice a couple of times this morning, so it brightened my day.
Well, thank you. Well, welcome everybody. It looks like we just went live. My name is Tracy Altman, and we are so happy to have you back to the Women of Innovation. Are really great information. I just want to remind everybody on the right-hand side under the main stage, you can ask questions, you can network during this, and we'll be looking at that and incorporating it into it, or at the end we'll answer all your questions. This next session is so important because at the end of the day, the three initials that everybody wants to hear is ROI, whether it's your funders, whether it's your consumer, everybody wants to know how are you delivering. So I'm really excited that our next guests are going to talk about that. I'm also going to but tell you that Dresden Goldberg, who will be the moderator, is the person that put the Women of Innovation Day Summit together. She had a crazy group of people, including myself, that she had to develop in April that was going to be in person. Then we moved the dates and it was going to be in person, and then we had to make it virtual. So as all of you know from all of your virtual worlds these days, it's not an easy task. And she did it with grace and a lot of humor. So she heads up innovation at UTD. She's teaching the young minds about how to be entrepreneurs and join our community. So welcome, Dresden. I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to talk about.
Thank you so much, Tracy. As she mentioned, I'm Dresden Goldberg. I'm the Director of Programs and Operations for the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And I'm so happy to be with you here today. It's hard to imagine that a year ago when we started planning Women of Innovation, COVID was not even a whisper in the United States, and things have changed wildly and quickly. And Danyel and I were originally planning to talk about financial management and ROI, very important topics, of course, but we decided to change it up a little bit to focus on something a bit more relevant and timely to today's environment. So we're going to be talking about the keys to managing business pivots to maximize ROI during an economic crisis. And now I would like to introduce you to my friend Danyel Surrency-Jones. She's the co-founder and chief executive officer for the Dallas Frisco-based sports tech company Powerhandz. She's also the president of the Power to Give Foundation. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's someone I admire and find inspiring. I know you will too. So please welcome Danyel.
Hi, everyone. Dresden, thank you so much. I admire you as well. You don't know how important it is for me to be looking at you right now in the midst of everything that's going on, because the accolades, of course, that you were given as to starting the Women of Innovation program, like that's true leadership. So I've been with you, I think, from the beginning since you called me about this program. And I'm just so proud of you. And I'm so proud of you pushing forward in the midst of the crisis. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. And it's so exciting to have you here and to see your face in person, as you know, through the camera. So to kick us off, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. So first, can you please describe Powerhandz for any of those who are not familiar with your business? And then can you tell us how Powerhandz is doing in these unprecedented times? And what do you feel has contributed to your current state?
Absolutely. So Powerhandz is a global athletic training and fitness and rehabilitation product tech company. So we design innovative products that help youth athletes, professional athletes, fitness enthusiasts, as well as just a mom, right, who wants to be able to improve their health and overall performance. We started about 6 years ago here in the Dallas area, moved to the Frisco area, really based on one vision and mission as to how do we help improve performance when we saw a lack of skill development that existed amongst athletes. And then we were able to quickly scale into multiple sports, multiple countries, when we realized that we were creating solutions that helped multiple communities and people. So very happy about that. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that day one, we started also being a socially conscious company with our Power to Give Foundation. My co-founder and myself, we come from very humble beginnings, and we wanted to make sure that when we made a profit with the company, that we also gave back to underserved communities, because we understand the importance of making sure that no youth is left behind from benefiting from what they can get from lifelong lessons with sports coupled with academics. So that is Powerhandz. And I will tell you, Dresden, we just feel so very blessed right now, right? That we created this company and business model, and we don't have the burden of closing our business. With more than 50% of small businesses permanently closing their doors right now, despite the $700 billion of capital injection from the government. I mean, this is really tough for our communities. I am such a cheerleader and an advocate for small businesses because they shape the culture of our community. And as a small business during this time, to be able to thrive because of two things, really, our innovation and our business model. The majority of our products are sold via an omni e-commerce channel, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Due to the positive cash flow that we've been able to experience, we have been able to increase and make our e-commerce channel even more robust by having really good advertising strategies and deploying new ideas that align with the customer behavior. So that is definitely one of the things that have helped us during this crisis and how we've been able to thrive. The second thing that I will say is we've been able to reorient to our customer experience, really one athlete at a time. We saw that our customers, of course, were shopping more online. We saw that we needed to teach more through master classes. We saw that kids needed to be entertained, that people were working out in their garages and et cetera. So we shaped our model to fit and meet them where they are. And that's been important to us. And the other thing is, while we've been experiencing sales growth, we didn't rush to start any new products or projects. We reinvested in what was working well. So when we talk about ROI, it's very important for us, as well as I believe other businesses, to truly understand what the core model of your business is, and you're reinvesting in that core model. And that's what we've been doing. And the last thing I'll say, being a global company, we feel very blessed. We still have been able to serve globally. We recognize that we serve communities globally, and that's what we've been able to do during this time. We have, at one time, within a month, over 120 countries that visit our website, and more than 20 countries that purchase from us at a time. So we feel very blessed.
That's awesome. It's so great to hear. So as you've been leading Powerhandz through these times, what are some of the questions that you've asked yourself to anticipate the short to long-term impacts on growth potential and strategies? And then what would you recommend to other business leaders who are considering what to do at this time as well?
Yeah, so obviously, great question. It's, with our team, I often, and this is something that, I learned from my parents, right? I talk about serving. So one of the key questions that I have asked myself and that keeps me up at night is, what can I do to be a solution and serve? It is not about selling during this time. It's about being a solution and serving. So I think that's a very key question that all organizations, whether you're a small or Fortune 100 or 500 organization, what is it that we can do to serve? The second question is, going back to the ROI is, how do I manage my cash flow so that I don't crash during this time and we can truly sustain during the crisis? That piece is very important. And, I am fortunate that we have an accountant and we have a CFO, and I can work with them. And I've learned, of course, by being that type of CEO that understands that I have to look at my P&L. I have to analyze our business to understand, how do we stabilize, and do we really understand and maintain an operational cash flow that dictates when sales are declining, right? What do we need to do to manage that? And in the midst of even the unknowns, when sales may be increasing, but we've got unknowns that may be coming in the future that we need to manage. So really asking yourself about the cash flow question in the midst of crisis. In addition to that, our customers are engaging differently. So, where will your customers engage from? So how do you meet them where they are? And we talked about this a little bit. And I told you, at the end of the day, I want to meet my customers at Target.com. I want to meet them at Walmart.com, Amazon.com. I want to meet them if they want a masterclass, if they want IG Lives, if they want contests, right? I want to meet them where they are. So truly understanding where the engagement of your customer will be coming from at this time. And then also analyzing customer behaviors and thinking futuristic. The next question is, how quickly can you develop digital strategies? So for those businesses that were brick and mortar, only brick and mortar, or those businesses that only had one channel, right? What do you do to create an omni-channel so that you are able to, from a profit perspective, you're able to have different distribution models that are set up to gain more profits? It's very important. And of course, in this climate where people are not going into stores and they're doing most of their shopping online, then that's going to be advantageous for everyone. And then, the last thing I'll say is when and where do you reinvest into your business? I was, again, Greg Brickner, who's our CFO, who I love learning from. He always talks about good businesses find ways to grow using their cash flow to reinvest, right? And so really looking at that cash flow model and understanding where cash flow meets your core competencies. Cash flow meeting your core competencies, right? And then reinvesting in that core competencies. Not what you think, not what you want to do, but what your customers are buying at this time, right? That's what you reinvest in.
Okay, amazing. So you mentioned earlier too that you put any new products and new projects on hold at this time. So how did you evaluate what you should reinvest in and what you should completely pivot away from?
Yeah. So, as inventors, as entrepreneurs, right? As creators. Oh my gosh. I have a whiteboard dressing that is in my office. I'm waking up in the middle of the night with all these ideas. Like, all I want to do is create. I really don't want to worry about all this other stuff. So that is really that's such a tough issue to have. That's such a blessing, right? And so during a crisis, when you created your plan for 2020 and now you see this grand plan that you have to pause, right, in that planning, and then you have to be very smart about the pausing in order to manage the cash flow. You really have to look at, again, it goes back to what are your customers' behaviors? What is the voice of your customer telling you at this time about why they believe in you? It comes down to that simple question. Why are customers believing in you in this time? Why are they pushing the button to buy your product or service? And in the same token, what is it about your product or service that can be extended to also be of value in this time, right? And so for those people that, when you look at your cash flow, you have one particular core competency and model and infrastructure that works, but then you can also extend that. Don't be afraid to do that if that is in line with what your customer voice is telling you.
Perfect. Now, so you mentioned earlier omni-channel. How did you scale to other countries, and what advice would you provide to others who wanted to sell outside of the United States?
Yes. So, and I'm always transparent with people to say, with Powerhandz, we did not start off saying that we're going to be global. I certainly wish 6 years ago that I knew what I know now, right? Sports and fitness and overall health and wellness is truly, an international language. And, based on our analytics and statistics, that was a great discovery for me. When I saw and realized that we had all of these other countries that were purchasing from us, that's when the analytics told me that it was time to scale, right? So as a result of understanding our ability as to where we were selling, that's when I knew we could scale globally and be very strategic about scaling and where we would put distribution channels. So we've been able to develop relationships in Europe, Canada, the Philippines, and I'm so excited about a huge partnership that we're working on in Africa. So my advice to entrepreneurs is, reversing what I just told you, right? So when I sat in front of the board and we talked about this idea 6 years ago, I encourage you to start with a vision of serving communities globally, right? And developing an infrastructure that supports that vision. So you're not going backwards. So start thinking big in the very beginning. And then I want you to research the countries and the communities where your innovation will serve them, and it solves a problem and fills a gap. For instance, for us, which we haven't been able to completely scale into China yet, we sell into China every single week, but there are 300 million people that play basketball in China. Yes. So that is a complete market, right? That we want to have a distribution model in. We have to be smart because that is a very interesting country, of course, to plant a model and seed into. So again, research, be very smart, understand where you fill your gaps. The next thing is I have learned through lessons, scaling is not about speed. It is about being strategic, right? When we started the company, we wanted to scale so very quickly into all these verticals. And there were some verticals that we didn't need to scale into very quickly. And when you're scaling, there's funding and expenses that are going into scaling into those markets, right? So be very smart and strategic and methodical about that approach. It's not about your speed when you're going into those countries. It's truly about the strategy.
All right. I can't believe this, but we're almost out of time, Danyel. I know.
Okay.
We could talk for hours, but I want to try to squeeze in 2 more questions. So I'm going to just ask them both.
And I'll go high level. I'll try.
Yeah. So when we know that many businesses have unfortunately had to close their doors during this time. And we also know that many of them are starting their next venture. And so what important lessons have you learned that you would recommend that they pay attention to in this next round? And then also in the last few minutes, could you share your final pieces of advice?
I will. So I'll try to go very quickly. And I always talk about this one quote. Don't be so attached to one vision that you can't see your next, because your next could be the sole reason why your vision was created. I firmly believe that. So that's my one big picture advice that I want to give to the entrepreneurs that had to close. The next steps, as you're analyzing your next venture, your board is so important. Make sure you find people that will get you access into rooms and at tables that you can't access on your own. Don't ignore your problems, embrace them. We are problem solvers. That's the next thing. Mentorship. It is so important, and I talk about this in my TEDx. Finding a Fortune 100 or 500 company that fits your core competency and model and learning from them is so important, right? And don't give up. Don't stop innovating because you had to close your door. And then the last piece of advice that I would give for everyone, this has been an incredible moment in time, historic moment. I have never experienced this in all my 40 plus years of living, right? Between the economic crisis, social and racial injustices. I just ask that we really unite together to compartmentalize the trauma. And people need to realize that there's trauma associated with closing a business, with being a stay-at-home mom, being, losing a job, having income that has decreased, watching the social and racial injustices happen, the political climate, there's trauma, right? And so I'm asking that everyone check on their strong friends. I'm asking everyone check on the people that post, right, about their businesses doing well where they may be struggling. Check on your neighbor that's right next door. So be a bridge and be a leader for unity in this time so that people can really see what diversity and inclusion looks like by you breathing that every day. That's the one thing that I ask. Secondly, business leaders, in order for, in my opinion, for the economy to rise, I think that small businesses and large businesses need to come together, sit down, and really understand how we learn from one another. How do we take the brilliance that we both bring to the table, and how do we push our communities forward? And the last thing is vote. My parents paid a very high price, and my grandparents and ancestors, so I would not be doing what I should be doing as a child of theirs if I didn't encourage everyone to vote.
Very sound advice, and yes, please vote. Thank you so much for spending this time with us today, Danyel. This was amazing.
You're
chat
amazing.
Has been on fire.
Thank you.
Thank you. And back to you, Tracy.
I need your energy, Tracy.
So say it one more time. Be careful not to be so close to your strategy or your vision that you don't say that one more time, because it was so good.
Oh gosh. And so it's a quote that I always say, and I want to make sure that I don't be so close to your vision that you won't understand. Hold on one second. Let me tell you.
Because it was, I think that's really great perspective.
I got it. Yeah, no.
Okay.
I have to make sure that I get it right, because don't be so attached to one vision that you can't see what your next vision is, because your next is the sole reason why you created your.
I think I need you to write that quote in the chat, because I just think that was wow to me. And that's all of us, right? We get so tunnel vision that we forget to open up. Thank you so much. What a great session. Thank you, Dresden. Thank you, Danyel.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Bye,
We've got 3 minutes, really. Yeah, kind of 3 minutes before the next speaker. So I want to remind everybody, if you go to the left-hand side, we've got the expo going on. We also have networking going on. You have to be the person that initiates it. So go in there. The networking is awesome. It round robins you. It gets you into people. But the next person could be your funder. The next person could be the person that buys your business. The next person could be that IT guy that you really need. So please do that. And again, quick potty break, quick drink break, and we will come back to you in about 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.